Hello, everyone. Welcome to ETimes. I'm Rachit Gupta. And today we've got a very special guest. We've got Michael E Uslan, the man who arguably started the whole Batman movie revolution. I mean, his association with Batman as a superhero goes back many decades, almost four, if I'm not mistaken, more than that. Welcome, Michael. How are you? How is India? How is India treating you?
I have, first of all, I've rediscovered a whole family I didn't even know I had. Everybody's so friendly. We share so many of the same interests, so much interest in our mutual cultures. And I have had a chance to eat authentic Indian food. I thought in America I had been eating Indian food, and I've learned here now that's not what this is all about. This is terrific, really terrific.
Of course, of course. It gets a lot spicier over here, right?
Spicy is good.
So, Michael, I'm just gonna, let's just start talking about the reason you're here, the Entrepreneurs Organization. What are you addressing, and what's the thought behind this involvement of yours?
I think one of the most important things globally is the spirit of entrepreneurship, and it requires people to be bold, to be daring, to be strategic, to take calculated risks when you roll the dice, to fuel your endeavors with passion, as opposed to just doing it because it's the next business thing to do, and about commitment and perseverance. And all of these things represent part of my story. When I, as a blue-collar kid who didn't come from money, who didn't know anyone in Hollywood, had a dream of showing the world the true Batman, the dark and serious Batman, the way he was created in 1939 as a creature of the night. But I might as well say, how do I jump the Grand Canyon? And I had to learn the process of what it takes to do that. And it's about looking for every opportunity to get your foot in the door. It's about knocking on doors, letting them slam in your face, getting up, dusting yourself off, going back and knocking again and again. And my story is that the Batman movie franchise was built on my bloody knuckles. And that's part of what I want to talk about tonight with the group that's here.
Michael, I'm pretty sure around the world there are fans of Batman, but particularly in India, and especially the franchise that Chris Nolan started, it's become like a cult in India. And as I've sort of heard in your previous interviews, you consider him to be one of the geniuses who sort of came on board. So, what sort of opinions and what sort of thoughts have you seen, heard from Indians in respect to Nolan and in, his films and his franchise?
The Dark Knight trilogy, Batman Begins, The Dark Knight Rises, resonated here. And it's interesting how Christopher Nolan, who's truly a genius and a good person who would show up on the set every day in a suit and tie. It was like classic Hollywood. It was amazing. But what he was able to accomplish, holding a mirror up to our society in those post 9/11 years, and creating a movie that, although it's a comic book movie, it has true thematic heft to it. And when you walk out of one of Christopher Nolan's Batman movies, you no longer had to say, gee, that was a great comic book movie. At last, you could say, that was a great film. And I'm reminded, there was a scene in Dark Knight where you have people who are on board a ship, and they are given a moral choice. Do you press a button and blow up the next ship loaded with people in order to save yourself, or do you not? What happens when you're presented with a moral choice that is between bad and worse? And so many people that I've spoken to over the last few days, it's the same whether it's America or India or China. They say that in the darkness of the movie theater, they had to come to terms with what they think they would have done. And for a comic book movie to have that kind of impact, it is truly amazing. But that shows you how Christopher Nolan elevated the whole genre of superhero films.
One of the things that I read, through my research, was you were not very particularly happy about Adam West's series in the 60s. and how it was sort of irreverent in its treatment of the Batman. But now, I mean, when I saw Matt Reeves and Robert Pattinson's latest film, I personally thought that it was the darkest iteration of Batman yet. So I know you're a producer on that, but as an audience, as a fan, when you saw that film on the screen, what were your thoughts? Were you finally happy that the Dark Knight sort of has finally found the right iteration, the right treatment with this film as well?
We have been so fortunate to have geniuses like Tim Burton and Anton Furst, who was our production designer on the first Batman movie and created the whole look of Gotham City, the Batmobile, Christopher Nolan, Matt Reeves, Todd Phillips, who did a masterful job on Joker with Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah.
Phil Lord and Chris Miller, who made the Lego movie, Lego Batman, come to life. I mean, these are incredible iterations, and one is as different from the other as possible. So for me, there's real joy in the fact that Batman can be so many different things to so many different people. If you go back to Adam West TV series in 1966, 67, my problem was I was a hardcore comic book and Batman fan. I had already met Bob Kane and Bill Finger, the creators of Batman. Bill Finger told me how Batman was created. I heard it straight from the horse's mouth. And I knew with that series, the world was laughing at Batman. They had made a joke out of Batman, and that just killed me. And in my basement den that night, I made a vow, like young Bruce Wayne once made a vow. But he made his vow over the bloodied bodies of his parents. Mine were safe upstairs in the kitchen. But I said, somehow, someday, I will find a way to let the world know what the true Batman is like. And that began the mission. That really began the mission. So it was a reaction to that series, because you have to understand the world at large, who had never read comic books, that was their one and only understanding of interpretation of Batman at the time. Today, I embrace the show because we have so many different versions of Batman now for each different section of the audience. To me, that old TV series is a great way to introduce younger children to the world of Batman and Robin. And I think it fits in great there. Adam West and I got to meet at a Comic-Con panel, and it was a love fest. And it was really a great moment in my career.
Right, right. Also, Michael, a lot of modern superhero films, I mean, they're dominated by the narratives that, Marvel and Disney have set. And we have DC who are sort of doing their own thing. So when you sort of look at the competition or the other iterations, people like you who are producers of Batman, do you guys feel that you should probably adopt that narrative that's helping the Avengers or say a Spider-Man franchise, or does DC and Warner and the other producers want to do their own thing?
You have to look historically at the inherent differences between DC and Marvel. So let's go back to the origin of the comic books. The Marvel age of superheroes was created by one writer who was also the sole editor, and that was Stan Lee. The Marvel universe is a unified universe. It is one tone. The rules are all the same.
Right.
The rules have to operate under to do a comic book type movie. What's in outer space is true whether you're talking about Thor or Spider-Man or the Fantastic Four. What's under the ocean, it's all unified, aimed at the same audience. DC Comics had a very different history. From the earlier days, there were 6 to 8 different editors. Each one possessed different characters and protected them. It was like fiefdoms, and they built huge walls around them and moats filled with alligators. And they had their own stable of writers and artists. And I always tell a story. I was about 10 or 11 when I went to the store and I bought 2 comic books that day. One was a Superman comic and one was an Aquaman. And I open up Superman, and there he's journeyed to Atlantis under the ocean. It's all mermaids and mermen, and he falls in love with a mermaid. Wow, that was pretty cool. Then I read Aquaman. Same company, came out the same day. There's no dome over this city like there is in Superman's Atlantis. there's no mermaids, there's no mermen. Aquaman's the king of Atlantis. It's like, whoa, what's going on here? So the different books at DC were aimed at different audiences. Some were aimed at 8 to 12-year-old boys. Some were aimed at high school, college age. And it's super challenging to find a basic unified universe. So that's the most key difference between the two companies. And that's why, personally, I love having a Gotham City universe, a Metropolis universe, a Paradise Island universe, an Atlantis universe. If there's crossover from time to time, fine. But it's not like one woven piece of tapestry.
Right.
And I've proven, thanks to the filmmakers, how each Batman movie can be completely different and standalone. Christopher Nolan's 3 movies are like one movie in 3 acts.
Yeah.
And that's a beginning, a middle, and an end, beautifully structured. Ben Affleck played a Bruce Wayne in his mid-40s who was bitter, frustrated, had to be dragged back into it, and was great for that. Pattinson, a young Batman just starting out, and was great for that. Joker is another great example.
Right.
And how great to be able to give filmmakers the opportunities to express a vision without being tied to other filmmakers' visions that came before them,
right,
and other writers' visions that came before. So the key is to take advantage of those. It's not a weakness, it's actually a strength.
And on that note, Michael, my final question to you. You are in India. Have you seen any Indian films? Do you know any Indian movie stars? Are there any favorites?
You know, over the years, I've seen Indian films. My son spent time in Bollywood.
Okay.
And was reporting back to me,
Okay.
eyes and ears on Bollywood and what Bollywood has done.
Okay. All right, Michael, thank you so much for your time, and best of luck for all your future endeavors. All right. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thanks a lot.
All right.
I've enjoyed it. Thank you.
Bye-bye.